So people thought it was a joke when I posted this, that the Biden administration, they ran on student debt forgiveness. None of that happened. Then they were like, free college. Well, no, we're just going to do community college. And they're not even going to do that, which, gee, who could have fucking seen that coming, right? And so Jill Biden is one at the helm of this project, and she literally just told everybody this isn't going to happen. I'm sorry. So there's no community college, but the Biden administration is really focused on giving people crack pipes and other necessary things for, their drug addiction, which we're going to talk about because it's more specific than that, but it's just funny because the Independent wrote that the GOP was outraged with the $30 million that Biden plans to fund crack pipe distribution in an effort to reduce drug harm. And so they basically, the conservatives are freaking out. They're like, just saying this is so dumb. U.S. Senator Marsha Black of Tennessee wrote to the Department of Health and Human Services saying she was concerned about this grant. And this is from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, SAMHSA, and it's going to subsidize drug paraphernalia. So this controversy is, of course, a proposal under the Harm Reduction Grant Program, which is part of the Biden administration's effort to lessen the impact of drug addiction on marginalized communities. So he wants to bring equity to, racial equity by doing this, which is already a problem in of itself, because what are you saying by doing that? And it's supposed to fund facilities offering safe syringe exchanges, opioid reversal drugs, fentanyl test kits, and other methods meant to stem the United States striking drug overdose crisis, which has killed more than 100,000 Americans between 2020 and April 2021. This is a pandemic that most people aren't paying attention to, and Pasta and Shonda talk about all the time. And the HHS said that people saying that they're buying crack pipes is disinformation, misinformation. And so they're saying that they're trying to help people with evidence-based treatments, blah, blah, blah. So my issue, Pasta, and I want your opinion on this real quick, because you do a lot of, you have to hell and back, which Chanda Masta, yeah. And you guys talk about this all the time. But in my opinion, these are the things I've laid out as to what would actually help. And some of the things are releasing all prisoners for low-level drug offenses and commuting is what I should say, commuting sentences, and ending the drug to prison pipeline. Obviously, that whole situation where we have people jailed for marijuana or petty drugs, that needs to end immediately. Stopping the drug cartel, that is the DEA. That is a whole part of it. The CIA is literally the one that started the conditions for drugs, exactly. Particularly cocaine. The legalization of marijuana and other drugs, obviously they're legal. Like you want to do this? Well, why don't you just decriminalize marijuana and other drugs? If you legalize them, then you can control them more. And rehabilitation centers with professionals. So no more jails and incarceration, rehabilitation. And that's what would help. But the Biden administration isn't doing any of that. So
yeah. Well, it's a two-pronged problem. Number one, the people who caused the problem, like you just mentioned, the CIA, you can go all the way back to the Somosas and the whole Contras war and whatnot, what they were doing, the way they were using cocaine flown in from Colombia, putting on the street, crack cocaine, freeway Rick Ross. They also did it New Jack City style in New York, were the two places they really actually thrusted this on the people, and it really hit the Black communities hard. And they also made their sentences, people in the Black community, twice as much as they did for the more affluent white communities in the cocaine. We know about this whole story, how this happened. So the first thing is we have to make sure that everybody who caused the problem is held accountable, and that never happens, right? Because it's more than just the CIA. It's all the, all the people within the Congress, the administrations who kind of okayed this and whatnot. But we have to make sure these people get held accountable so they don't do it again. And they're never held accountable, just like the Sackler family who put all these opioids out on the streets, all these to people in these other communities. This mainly affected, when it started affecting, middle-class white communities, that's everybody started roaring and screaming about it and stuff, but that's the first thing. Enough is enough. The people who lie and the people who thrusted these deadly diseases, the crack cocaine, the opioid epidemic. We put those people in jail. We hold them accountable. Number two, we make sure that our solutions actually handle the root of the problem, right? I mean, I know a lot of people would fall back and go, oh my God, they're, the Biden administration is trying to give crack pipes and whatnot and everything. Like it's crazy. But there's something about it when you look at what's going on in Europe and certain countries where they have these facilities where people can go and actually use their choices of whatever it may be, if it's heroin off the streets, whatnot, and they provide them a safe community to live in while they work the recovery stage. You know what I'm saying? Like what you're talking about, not just throw people in prison. That is part of the whole system. That is that the fact that they have all these big time and offenses that they can throw on poor people and keep them in jail for the prison pipeline right there to be fed. So it's one of those situations where we have to work the actual problems. Why do we have so much of this problem? Why are there so many homeless people that are on the streets using, opioids or heroin and whatnot? We have to fix those systemic problems. And a lot of that has to deal with a good working economy, good education, good housing, good mental health care. You know what I'm saying? So it is a problem we have to fix overall, not just look at the solutions at the top, the Band-Aid solutions, because that's what both parties do. And then they jockey back and forth so that you only look at the problems on the surface and not the actual systemic problems down below. So it has to be a two-pronged solution. Hold the people accountable, fix it at the actual problem where it's coming from.
Yeah, exactly. And the administration isn't doing that. 30 million in the form of just giving, more needles and pipes. That's been done before. It's nothing revolutionary that he's doing. I mean, and again, you're not legalizing these drugs. You're not trying to get these people out of jail. So it's a very superficial Band-Aid solution is what they're doing, which is no surprise. This is what they offer. But in tandem with that, which is why it seems so ridiculous and why, we live in a cartoon, is the fact that the free community college was taken off the table. And Jill Biden made a speech Monday and acknowledged that her legislation is no longer in the Democrats' spending bill because the Democrats are too busy giving money to corporations and giving money to a bunch of kickbacks for whatever pet projects for the fourth industrial revolution that they want to do instead of investing in the people, which is no surprise. I mean, this is what they're going to do. And basically the New York Times reported that earlier on during her first address to Congress, Joe Biden said that Jill Biden would lead an effort to promise 2 years of free community college for eligible students. And then it was tucked into the massive social spending package that, they say, well, it just didn't win the support of all the senators, namely Manchin and Sinema. And this was her big, signature, Jill Biden's. But of course, it was struck down. And then Jill addressed a group of people and she had a little speech. So let's just go ahead and play the speech, Oz, and we'll hear what she said.
One year ago, I told this group that Joe, my husband Joe, was going to fight for community colleges. And since then, we've made some incredible progress. The American Rescue Plan put billions into community colleges so that they could support their students. Thank you. Through financial aid, child care support, and other wraparound services. But Joe has also had to make compromises. Congress hasn't passed the Build Back Better legislation yet. And free community college is no longer part of that package. Like you, I was disappointed because, like you, these aren't just bills or budgets to me, to you, right? We know what they mean for real people, for our students.
Okay. So
why are they got to be so full of shit all the time, fam? It's just so, I mean, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I just want to say one thing and I'll let you get going over there. With the soup of his pen, he can sign and forgive student debt with a swoop of his pen. And then we should enter into the debate of what that would do to help some people and how it would be awesome and why I think it's deserving of the American students who have these bills nowadays. They don't have, our grandparents and our parents didn't have to deal with the crazy student debt that these kids have to deal with today, that you have to deal with, that I had a little bit of it because I have some college. I don't have a lot, but I mean, it's just ridiculous. And I understand the conservative part. Well, we can't just forgive this. Why don't we forgive that for workers over here and stuff? We should have those debates. But what I think it would be able to, what it would do is just enormous and lift the burden off a lot of our children today and the people and the kids of the future who are going to be running this country. I don't mean to say kids, young adults, I should say. But they're not even doing that. And the fact is that Joe Biden is just going to give you lip service and bullshit. And now his wife's going to give you lip service and bullshit. I mean, they have the power to do it. They're not doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand. This is why I get mad. These progressives like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. Of course this is going to happen. This was always going to happen. This is what happens when you live in an oligarchy, when people are representatives and puppets and they don't really have any power. I mean, you're right. Legislatively or executively, Joe Biden could actually grant a lot of these things, but Joe Biden isn't really in charge here, is he? And that's what people need to begin understanding, that Joe Biden could do this, but he can't because the people who actually are in charge will not allow this to happen because they need people to be dependent on this government, and they need people to be dependent on the system that's run via these corporations. Now, they'll dangle a carrot for you every once in a while, maybe give you a few crumbs, but they're never going to actually do anything to actually help you out without getting something in return. They talk about Build Back Better as if it's anything good. We've talked ad nauseum about how it's not, but the whole, we don't have money for this is such bullshit. I mean, we just dished out billions of dollars to Israel. So this is just, you guys know this. Our audience is smart. We don't have to continue going over this, but it's hilarious. And I just thought it was funny because if you put this side by side, it's just hilarious. People thought that I was joking, that this was satire, because it looks like it's satire, right? Oh, we're not going to give you community college. But the Biden administration literally said they want to promote racial equity by giving these crack pipes. So you're saying that people of color and Black people are going to benefit more, right? With are going to have more racial equity with this than education. That is the level that the United States is on. Meanwhile, Nicaragua offers free education for everybody. And they're a sanctioned third world country. So it's just enough with the excuses, right?
It tells you where, what type of investment and, hope and passion some leaders have for their country and what they do for the young adults in those countries. They invest in them. They invest in their future because they're investing in their country's future. What would it be for Joe Biden? Like if Joe Biden would have wiped his pen and said, I'm going to forgive student debt and pay it off, all the companies holding all that debt, they'd like that. They'd be like, oh, hell yeah, we get paid in full right now. All the leftists or whatever you want to call them, progressives that voted for Joe Biden, the people who put him in office, they would like it. It's just the conservatives who would have an issue with it. And even some young conservatives who had student debt were like, well, yeah, that's kind of bullshit. But if he's giving it free me, I'll take it. They'd take it. You know what I'm saying? They'd take it. A lot of young adults, they'd be like, that might be against my ideology. And I was willing to pay off my debt because I'm believing of pulling myself up by my bootstraps and individual responsibility. But you damn well believe, fam, they'd take it. So many people would benefit from a swoop of his pen, but he won't do it because, like you said, the real people in charge are saying, no way. We don't want to give too much freedom and independence to the young Americans. They might want to take over one day. We got to keep them under our bootstraps. So let's just let's strap them with debt. Let's strap them with debt. And it can be really demoralizing for people trying to get out underneath this debt. When you look at it, it's like debt you're never going to get out of. And if you make any chunk of money, those people who hold those loans, who've been collecting on the interest all those years, will come a knocking and come get their money.
Right. And again, like only the Biden administration would promote racial equity with crack pipes instead of education. And this is the administration, that Biden's been around with, for a long time. I mean, he was around during the Bush years. He's been around a long time. He's been in politics for a long time. He hasn't changed.
Yeah.
This is who he is. This is what they do. This is what the Democratic Party does. And in a few months, the progressives are going to ask you to continue voting for Democrats. Just remember, because regardless of this and whatever else they don't do for you or that they do, however many ways they screw you, these people are going to continue asking for you to vote for them. So that's that section.
Yeah.